welcome back. Merry Christmas. It's Christmas season 2024. We just celebrated Christmas Day yesterday. I just wanted to pop another video and talk about um, exciting news. I had a report that I sent for the hard copy of the Player's Handbook, and it actually see some of the inside. It actually came out pretty good. I am very excited with the printout, the charts. There's a few cosmetics that I want to edit on the second edition. I will show you, so that's part of the character sheet and one of the character drawings. So I think the book came out really, really nice. This is again the cover, and I'm happy with it, the way it came out. And I wanted to talk about the game system itself. So it's been about 20 years since I started mulling with the idea of the game itself, actually the world, as I was playing more D&D as well as a few other games like Earth Dawn, Conan, a few other ones. We were messing around with different game systems. We even played Lord of the Rings. It's a percentile die. A lot of them were die 20s, die 6s, die 10s. A few of them were die 10s or die 12s. So there's a few different game systems you can use, different dice games to play with. Um, and build characters. Character creation was a big deal. Background stories was very important to us. How do characters come to this world or the world you're playing for the dungeon master or game master? And we really focused on story a lot. Of course, we had a few games that were just swashbuckling or just messing around, and we'll talk about those. I'll give you some examples of stories that I've had before of different games that I played, and campaigns. Some were pretty long, some were years long, some were a few months, but a lot of the good ones lasted a long time. And so I started mulling at the idea of creating a world, and I was kind of messing around with different ideas of a game. I started with a friend of mine, turned out became my stepson, David. He was very integral in kind of playing around with the story at the beginning, of how to develop the story piece of it. Um, and we ran through a one campaign, which was completely different, but the idea was there. It was kind of cemented. He played through, me and him played alone for a while, kind of meshing ideas together and trying to figure out where the story would go. And then it started becoming more epic in nature, and storytelling, because I wanted to first create the world, and just I was not worried about the game system itself, because I was going to initially use an existing game system like a D20 system or something like that, to run it, making it a supplement to an existing game system. And then slowly, as we played different campaigns and really started developing the idea and of how faith is incorporated into game systems, a lot of it we played with, or the stories, was very um, polytheistic in nature, very kind of not very important to the play. It was mostly a lot of people wanted to play faith-based characters just for the healing, or some of the different powers, but it was never played for, a focus on aesthetic as far as the character itself. I did play a paladin at one point, that I really loved that character. I tried to stay true as possible to the faith itself. Even one of my characters, which was a mage, at level, I think it was 16, I ended up multi-class into a priest class, became a 6 level priest, 16 level wizard. So that was kind of interesting take, and there was a lot of spiritual movement there that we had played around with in the game itself and the story that David ran. And that's really started kind of hitting my idea of how faith is integral to a person's um, being and psychology, and the things they choose to do, whether it's evil or good. And so I decided to develop that idea as like, okay, as I'm thinking through these ideas, is like I really wanted a system that focuses on faith as a powerhouse in the system, because really ultimately faith matters, because in any game system you're fighting demons and creatures and stuff that is supernatural, but there was rarely a supernatural counterpart to it. It was mostly just magic or just beating the crap out of something with magical items of some sort. So it was never really focused on the essence of it, the evil essence, the manifestations of things, and how people can be taken over by certain uh, thoughts or evil spirits, and how they can change depending on what path they choose. So I started to really think about that a lot. Like, what does that mean? And as I journeyed closer in my faith journey back to the Lord, and thinking about those things and praying, and ideas started to come back, and I really wanted to develop my own game system, because I wanted to work on how do you incorporate the negative aspects of uh, the evil side of things, counteracting the positive aspects. So I started playing around with a negative positive system. And initially, I was stuck with the die 20 dice that I wanted to stick with, and kind of meld that into a negative scale as well. But that seemed a little bit daunting. Then you'd have um, playing around with two dice of a negative 20 and a positive 20 die. That means your range is pretty broad. You're talking about, a what, about 40 span of um, in the scale. So I was like, that's a little too much. And again, the other part that I didn't like about certain game systems was the percentile dies were very high number, and it then became kind of like almost like a Final Fantasy game or RPG, where it's you're hitting for thousands of hit points, or you have thousands of hit points, and numbers become so large that it doesn't matter. The numbers don't mean anything at a certain point. So the larger the numbers, the harder it is to kind of make it more manageable as far as being able to roll dice and calculate things. And I kind of love math. I'm a little bit of math geek when I was going to college and even high school. So I wanted to really delve into the aspect of the negative positive in the scale. So I went through and decided to build it on a die 8 system. So I created the game system based on a die 8. And with a die 8, you would get a scale from a -7 to a +7, which gives you about a 14 range, 15 range there, number range. So it's a little bit more manageable, I thought, and I started kind of hitting that idea. The hard part is trying to incorporate some of the mechanics in there, which some of the stuff works really well, and some of the stuff is really nuanced, and you'd have to work through it. And some it requires a little bit thought and a little bit of management, I think, at the beginning. But once you get used to it, I think it gets easier, and then you don't have to do all the aspects of it. Like, for example, there is a durability feature into the environment, so you can incorporate that in there if you wanted to. You don't have to. That's another additional tack, kind of mark you have to keep track of. So there's a few aspects of it, but I really wanted the game system to have that negative and positive side. So you can have the world being affected in a negative way as well as a positive way, and shift that uh, dynamic over from one side to the other. And that's also on the spiritual level too. And then taking away from a positive reaction and using a negative reaction and stuff like that. And that can start to work really well with the spells, the abilities, and then the hardest part was getting the faith component in there, because the faith component is really going to be really based on the negative and positive aspect of it. So I had to work into that. I fleshed it out pretty good. Like I said, it's been about close to 20 years trying to get this idea down. And of course, life is very distracting. But finally, I got to the point where again, we have the actual hard copy of it, and I wanted to present that. There's a few aesthetics I want to change, but it's ready to go. And I'll add the description in there where the game system is, and I think I shared that on a different video previously. but I do have an e-copy of it, and then there's a free preview in the e-copy, and then there's a hard copy as well. And I did a few maps. We are going to be making some more items for sale that I would want to pull out, some merchandise, hopefully some characters. I want to build a dice system as well, so I'm working on that. And I'm hoping to kind of usher that forward and meet some of the people out there and start kind of making some game sessions small in my area, and then expand there and go to some of the conventions that are out there and kind of help develop this and spread it out to the rest of the world, have people play it, and kind of advance it from there. So another thing about the game system that I wanted to work in the world that we have, it's going to be a generational game system. That's the next part of it that I'm incorporating into it. So the first generation of the game is this. And then I'm planning on being 8 generations of the book, of the actual player's handbook. And that 8 generation will expand the character creation, the additions, the map, the world itself, and some of the game mechanics will be advanced and changed and kind of enhanced as we go move forward and play some more with the game system. But I wanted to launch it and start it out, and get ideas and how people are playing it, and if they're enjoying it, and how we can improve there. So hopefully you'll join me on the journey, and we'll be able to have some fun and play some games, and focus on a little bit more on the faith aspect of it, and see how that works. And again, thank you, and God bless, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.